Good evening, you cool and crazy coders. It's time for old games on a weekday, not a Wednesday, a weekday. With me, Mark W, as always. But not as always. In other words, this is a little bit atypical. I'm going to do a stream that's not about playing a game per se, but about coding one. Isn't that crazy? I might be a little crazy. I'm actually kind of dreading it. Not because I don't think it's fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm dreading that I'll be able to do anything productive, but some more context is I'm going to be coding, as the stream title says, in Atari BASIC. This is a programming language that you could have run in the 80s on your Atari 8-bit computers, such as Atari 400 or Atari 800 or that whole line of them. What is there to say about that? I think a lot of people who were kids around, kids in the 80s and had either like an Atari or a Commodore, etc., probably cut their teeth in programming on BASIC for those respective computers. And I think many people didn't go beyond that probably, but I actually did. I started in this very language, Atari BASIC. It was my first. That's where I lost my coder cherry from. And excuse me, having a tea here to give myself a little caffeine. I'm pretty tired tonight, but not so much like a coffee. I don't want to stay up. Anyway, yeah, Atari. You're working with limited resources. If you code on Atari, you're using a limited language. Even computer languages are always growing and developing, and there's new ones coming out. And even what I use at work, Java is one of the programming languages I mostly use, and that's like hugely more advanced compared to Atari Basic. And yet, a lot of people who are software developers consider Java to be old and stale and needing replacement. so, yeah, we're getting really old school. Why can a language feel old? Like, what does that even mean? Well, that would be a big topic to explore. But let's load up the source code to the game for starters. So this is a file called gambler.list. And I actually found this wonderful editor that I'm going to be using tonight. I hope the text isn't too small. I want to kind of fit most of it on the screen. But I could always adjust as needed, zoom in or zoom out. Let me know what you guys think. Looks like Eric is in the chat tonight, by the way. Hello to Eric. I'm telling myself to say hello to you, I guess. Sorry, I have a little bit of an awkward start here, but yeah, as people trickle in, we'll see if we amass an audience or not. This is certainly something different from my channel. But I want to give a very quick demo about why something could be so awkward in an old language that is better in a new language. So you could have a lot more complex coding today. There's a lot of thought and work is done by the creators of these programming language to make things more user friendly and easy to read, maintainable, and stuff like that. So let's give a quick example of how a for loop might look in Java. Now, what is a for loop? If you don't know, you might not follow anything in the stream, but here's a basic example of a for loop in Java. And it looks very similar to a for loop in the C language or C++. And this is saying, essentially, I want to do a thing 10 times. I want to take this variable called I. I'm going to declare that. Start it at 0 and go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then if I did something like this is pseudocode, not real code, so it won't work as is. This would just print those numbers in Java. Or maybe I want to nest the loops like this. Now we have this concept of indentations when you have one code block in another in a modern programming language. And maybe I want to print, I don't know. Again, this is pseudocode, don't take it too literally. I want to print both I and J. This is a nested loop, it's called. It might look something like this. And what's nice is I don't have to worry about line numbers, for one thing. If you look here in the Atari code, you need to define the line numbers manually. That means you have to write this. Usually people start by 10 and increment. But this program kind of does a little bit differently. And you have to write each line number. And you can't really format the code too freely. You have a little bit of freedom. You don't indent them like this. So if I want to write the same code in Atari BASIC, it might look something like this. And keep in mind that part of the discipline of coding for these old systems is these old consoles, you really have to know your memory limits and what works and what doesn't. So this is a trick you can use in old BASIC coding, is you put colon between multiple statements so they can all go on one line together like this. So this might be something similar like that. And to nest the loops, I might write it like this. Actually, this is not quite the same thing. I should be writing 0 to 9. Not really important though. The point is, like, the code structure, just from the very fundamentals, is a lot uglier and harder to maintain. And I would put the next J inside like that, just like how this Java loop for the variable J is inside the I. I want to keep the loop for J inside this I for loop. And here I would do the printing, whatever, however you write that. So now the thing is, this, and also in a modern editor, if I need to, take something, or maybe there's some stuff here, other stuff there. If I want to do something like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't actually want this inner loop here. I want to put it after other stuff. I can just go like this, do a quick copy paste, plop it there, fix up the part that I messed up a little bit. You get the idea. You have a modern editor, and without these hard-coded line numbers, it's easy to switch those things around. If I want to do something with this Atari BASIC, I have to re-specify these lines entirely. And if I were literally programming the way you did back in the day, you would have to do it like this. You don't have an editor. You write those for loops like this, blah, blah, blah. And if you wanted to edit a line, you don't have even like a cursor to like go back up. I mean, you have this cursor, but it doesn't work like that. You have to go like something like this. Now, if I want to move things around, maybe this is my second line, third line. Oh, if I want to edit the first line, 10, I have to re-specify it like that, sort of. And then if I want to get the idea of what the code looks like, I don't have all the code on the screen at once. I can do a list command like this. And I just kind of mangled the program I'm going to work with through that demo. But here's that print 4 line. So essentially, it's just a lot harder to work with. But I'm kind of cheating. I'm using this kind of editor. It's on a web page that they designed it for this purpose of, like, you could just drag and drop like an image and it would unpack the source for you and everything. And it has some cool little tools like special characters and that ASCII keyboard here. These are the special characters in Atari BASIC. This is called a ASCII. And that name might sound a lot like ASCII, which maybe you've heard about. This is a special character set. This is a special character set for Atari, basically. So yeah, I'll put aside that Java example and stuff. We don't need that anymore. But yeah, I'm kind of cheating. The way I can do it, I can actually show the whole workflow. That might be something worth doing. In other words, how do I make a change? First of all, I have to reload the game, the program that I'm working with, because I mangled it a little bit. Now I can paste this magic string. So H1 refers to my mapped virtual hard disk. That was one way I was able to link up my host operating system to the emulator that I'm using, basically. And this takes a while, even in the emulator. Now I can hit a special key in the emulator. By default, it limits to normal speed, so I can hit F7 to speed it up. But even then, it takes a while, and I suspect that's because most of the time spent loading is reading from the disk and not the CPU processing. That's my suspicion. And I think it still limits the disk speed. That's my suspicion, not proven. So now I have loaded the game, which is Gambler. And the workflow would look like this. In other words, end-to-end, how do I make changes? First thing I do is I go into my editor, which is actually this guy, and say I'm just going to add a redundant graphics 0. This isn't going to affect the behavior of the program. It's just kind of a demo. It's going to do nothing. So I'm going to hit the Save As List button up here. Sorry, good thing I scrolled because I almost did the Save As PNG image. Who wants that? Pong. Save As List. And now I go to my Mac OS Finder. And I had some windows ready, but apparently I messed that up. Give me a minute to get in gear here. Shit, what was that? What was that directory I need? I thought I had a folder window open for this purpose. Bear with me a second, please. All right, so we're gonna go to, I told this to download into a special place to make it easier. Yeah, here we go. This is the folder where I have the Atari hard drive mapped to, so I can read from this folder. And when I save this listing file from my browser editor, it will save as this gambler.list for whatever reason. So all I have to do is I'm kind of working with gambler.list as my one true source file as far as the emulator is concerned. So I delete that. No, I don't want to. I'll delete the old one and rename this one. This could probably be automated, but I don't have that working yet. And now I can move this window out of the way. And to the person who just joined, I am doing kind of an end-to-end demo of how I would make changes. I first made this dummy line here, and I saved the listing file by pressing this button in this editor. So that's kind of the first couple steps. Next, I would go to my emulator and type this magical phrase again. Magical command, more like. Load Gambler. And that's doing so via a mapped virtual hard drive that is H1. And today I learned you can actually have hard drives in Atari 8-bit computers, I suppose, if the emulator supports that function. There's other way they could have mapped it probably, but this is just like the first thing I tried that worked. I wound up fiddling with it for a while, actually. Anyway, once again, it takes a while, which is kind of going to be the unfortunate part of the stream, but that's just how it is. I thought about rigging up something that I could make I could theoretically make a file, load a file that's only the diffs, kind of like a patch, so I wouldn't have to reload the whole file. Anyway, just to prove that it worked, I can type list 1, 2, which will show me the first 2 lines. This command is giving me well, I provide it with a range of line numbers to look at. Lines 1 and 2 both set the graphics mode to 0, which is the normal character graphics mode in Atari BASIC. So essentially all I'm proving here is that it worked end to end and I can run the program. Why did it say the number 4 on the... Oh. Okay, I know, I messed up something. Sorry, my daughter's screaming and stomping. When I was doing that demo earlier, I forgot to type new to wipe out the contents of memory. Otherwise, what happens is if you load a program, it's not replacing everything. In other words, if there's lines 10, 20, and 30 in the program source file, but I had previously loaded a different line number like 15, the 15 doesn't get wiped out unless you type new. So this is going to be something that I'm probably going to forget from time to time, and it'll be a source of bugs. This is one of those dummy lines I entered earlier to print the number 4. That's why you see that. So it's a potential source of bugs. And I'm going to load again and prove that I got it right this time by running the program, and then we won't see the number 4. And after we do that, I'm going to show a couple of the resources I have open to help me. There, now you don't see the number 4 anymore. I'm going to show a couple of resources that I'm going to be using to help me, and then I'm actually going to play the game as is for about 5 minutes, just for anyone who hasn't seen me play this game before or hasn't heard of this game. It's pretty obscure. It is a game called Gambler that was provided by the company Softside, which would they would sell cassette tapes and like magazines with the source listing of basic programs for Atari. I think users could even submit their own programs to be distributed that way. But this is a game that I used to play with my siblings and friends as a kid that I thought was a lot of fun, and I brought it out on some recent streams in which I played Atari BASIC games because it was a good nostalgia trip for me. But anyway, I thought it would be fun to modify that game. But before we get too into the game, let me show you a couple of resources. Like I said I was going to do. This is just a random thing I was Googling for the Atari emulator I have, so I could learn how to map all the keys. Here was a very important one to me is the break, Atari break. I didn't know how to make that happen. And that's important because I need to be able to exit out of the executing program, like, on demand very easily. And all I have to do is hit the back quote key. But I'm leaving this open just in case I need to search for other special key mappings, basically. Here is the Atari BASIC reference manual. I'm a little scared I'm gonna have to get into something complicated and have to dig through this, and I'm hoping most of it's gonna be simple stuff. I'm trying to keep it simple, stupid, as they say, KISS, because I only have about 2 hours to stream here, maybe 2.5 if I push it. I'm already 17 minutes in, so just talking about it. But yeah, this is a nice reference to have handy. I pulled up the Wikipedia entry for Ataski, which again is like the special character set for Atari. It's similar to ASCII, but there's different characters. Moving on, this is the editor that we've seen already. And lastly, I wrote up a document. I dug through the source file for this Game Gambler a bit. And I had to figure out some facts about BASIC that I wasn't sure of because I haven't used it in so long. And even when I did use it back in the day, I didn't really know it too well. Like, I didn't understand the concept of arrays back when I was like a 7-year-old playing with this stuff. An array is basically you have a bunch of stuff. Instead of having one integer like my high score, I might have an array of scores where the index of the array indicates which player's score. It's going to be kind of tough if I try to explain every fundamental programming concept, so hopefully it doesn't come up too much. But yeah, the variables, because it's Atari BASIC, the variables are usually named like this: $. Dollar sign means a string as opposed to like a numeric piece of data. But here's another one, that L here, that's well, let me go back to what this means. This is $N, which is your array of names, player names. And this one here is L, count of lottery tickets owned by player, indexed by the player number. And so why are they using these names? Anybody who's done any modern programming knows that one of the most important things is to name your variables well. And so if I were programming again in, say, Java, I wouldn't say L as my array of lottery ticket counts. I would call it something like, I'm going to delete this, but just for the sake of demonstration, something like lottery ticket count. And that way it's pretty much impossible to forget. And it's actually considered quite important to name your variables well in modern programming. Programming gets complex. But here's the thing. Back in the day when you were programming on Atari BASIC, you had to, first of all, you had this giant text. If you go back to the emulator, this is, how many of these characters even fit on a screen, on one line? It's like, I don't know how many, but it's very limited. And another thing is the memory is limited. Now, there was a whole line of these computers. There wasn't just one single one. But the mode that I happen to be in right now has 48K, and that's not as high as it goes. I mean, it's not as low as it goes. It goes a lot lower than that. I just don't remember the numbers offhand. I think the Atari 400 came with maybe like 16K or something like that. No, it came with 8. I just happened to have the Atari 8-bit Wikipedia entry up. The 400 had 8K of RAM. And you could get, other models. These were all kind of mostly compatible computers. The Atari 800 had more RAM, but it also had upgrade slots. You could plug in a bunch of these special memory modules and bring it up to 48K, which was massive at the time. But yeah, you had to be conscious of that because this is a basic program. The language BASIC, it doesn't compile to some special tight binary executable. It is text that lives in memory. And there's an interpreter program that goes through this text and executes it in real time. And so essentially, every variable like this, the letter D, takes up, I believe, a single byte. If I decide to call this D, well, I don't remember what D stands for. I can look here if I figure that out. Dice graphics. If I decide to call that dice graphics, and I only have, I can count the number of, the amount of memory I have in kilobytes. That's a byte right there. That's a byte, another byte. Each character I type is a byte. Now, every reference subsequently, too, and if I search for D parentheses, I can probably find some. Some of them will be false positives. Well, that was probably a bad example because R&D is a random function. But here's one of them. That would have to be renamed to dice graphics too. So every instance would take several more bytes when you're really counting bytes. So we didn't have that luxury back then. You called them things like D, and then maybe you would keep some notes like this to help yourself remember or to document it for other programmers. So, M is the money. Here we were getting luxurious. Look, IO. That's the number of IOUs per player. Okay, so now that we've poked around a little bit and talked about the game, why don't we and talked about the machine and my workflow, etc. I'm going to jump into playing the game. By the way, Atari had a thing like a kind of like an early screensaver that it would do this. It would change colors if you just sat there idle. But I'm going to play the game for about 5 minutes just for anyone who's watching live or who might be watching the archived video later, just so they know what the game is supposed to look like before I modify it. So it's a game that's up to 4 players, hot seat. It's kind of almost like a board game-ish kind of a thing. Maybe a little bit like Monopoly, kind of, sort of. But very simple, very lucky. The idea is each player has $100 and you're trying to make $1,000. And the way you do that is you play these sort of randomly chosen mini games, and you bet money and you roll dice, and 90% of it is luck, probably more than that. But it was always a lot of fun to me as a kid, and so I thought I would use this game as my source code to modify. So I'm playing with just one player, but there's always an Atari controlled player in addition. So you'll see that. Let's go over the instructions quickly. This is the game of Gambler. It's like I got the beeps coming out of my computer speaker. That's probably fine. Actually, hold on. Let me make this work. Yeah, pairing my headset. Yeah, I did have an unpaired headset on my head all this time. Let's see. Is it actually making the sounds anymore, though? No? I don't know why not. Doesn't really matter. It's, Hey, Ryan, how's it going? Thanks for joining. I mean, I guess I would like to have the sound. Oh, look at that. It decided to, like, hang on me. Okay. The emulator is quite fragile. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow pairing my headset broke. It is, I've had a lot of trouble with this emulator doing wonky things. So let's give this a moment, and then maybe I'll just restart it. So Eric says in the chat, the first game I programmed was Blackjack, programmed on my TI-82 calculator. Cool. That had BASIC, right? Or some form of BASIC. And Ryan says I programmed games for a TI too. All right, looks like my emulator gave up the ghost. Yeah, again, this thing is just so fragile. So we have to start that up again. I don't think, the funny thing is, I don't think I really did much of that on a TI. I had a TI-83. And the funny thing is how gradually those things are, like upgraded. They don't really advance them very quickly. I think they're up to like TI-85 or something. I think my son is going to need like a TI soon. It's going to be like maybe 2 models above the one I had in college. Anyway, so when I load up this emulator, one of the first things I have to do is plug in the BASIC cartridge, like so. Great, now I'm kind of back to where I was, but it would be nice to load the program again. And hopefully the emulator doesn't give me much trouble the entire time. I press F7 to speed that up a little bit. And Ryan says, I think I just copied and pasted it. Fair enough. But that's a good way to start. If you really did want to pursue programming or just play around with it. Like this whole thing I'm doing here is basically I'm taking an existing program. This whole stream I'm doing right now. And I am trying to make it better or at least different. Okay, let's see if the sound will work this time. Oops. Okay, I skipped instructions accidentally, but that's all right. I think you guys have seen it. So basically, I have $100. Atari has $100. On your turn, you can choose to buy up to 3 lottery tickets if you don't have them already. And it always seems to be like a no-brainer, because the way the lottery tickets work is, well, if one of the subsequently chosen random games is the lottery, then for each lottery ticket you have a chance of winning $50. And I don't know the exact probability, but it's probably roughly 50-50. So essentially you spend $30 on 3 tickets, and then you have your 3 tickets where each one could give you $50. About a 50-50 chance of getting 50. I'm not really sure about that probability. It has to do with like a bunch of dice are rolled and the numbers on the ticket have to match the dice. But anyway, it's kind of one thing I considered maybe tweaking. Why is Y not working? Jesus. Okay, it was a caps thing, caps lock. So it just said it gave me the number 3-5 for my first ticket. Now I got 1-3. And I'll buy a third one. 1-2. Okay, now we're gonna check if there's any sound. Okay, can you guys hear the sound is the question. I think you can. It looks like it according to my audio gauges here. You should be able to hear the blip, 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 blip. Yeah, that's right. The way they're printing things is they're padding spaces for the max length of the the string for some reason. I guess they thought it was simpler that way. Anyway, this is kind of the core thing you do in a turn. You have these random little mini games. Sometimes they're just like you gain a thing, you gain money or lose money. Not even like a game, but you press a button and it chooses one. It's almost like spinning a wheel, you know, in Wheel of Fortune or whatnot. Look at that. Perfect demo for a lottery. Maybe that should be the first thing I do is change the lottery. Oh. Why didn't it play the lottery? It skipped it. Oh, you know, I remember this happening on a rare occasion. On a rare occasion, it would just say, screw you guys. No lottery for you. And, I thought I'd solved this problem. But the emulator does this farting sound often. I kind of cranked up the volume so you can hear. I'm just gonna not worry about that because it's too much going on in my head. Hopefully it's not bothersome. So yeah, it skipped the lottery because it was cheating. Atari is touching a key. It's not me doing it. And if we wanted to get crazy, I could try to fix that bug that just happened. Sometimes hunting bugs like that are very intermittent, not consistent, can be a huge pain though. Atari, what a bonanza. Everyone pays you $40. Alright. So this is the basic of the game. We kind of repeat until one of us hits $1,000. Maybe I'll just kind of try like 2 more games or so. 2 more mini games. The sweepstakes is the more complex one. That's kind of interesting to see, but unfortunately we didn't get that. High Roller might be a good demo of the kinds of mini games. There's a lot of them that are like you bet, you know, you ante up a little bit of money, like $20, and you roll some dice, and a thing happens. Here, in this case, it is everyone antes $20 and rolls 2 dice. The highest roller takes the $100 prize. And so many of the games use this mechanic. So if we decide to add our own little mini game to this game, we could use something along the lines of this. Do something like this. So I pressed a key, I pressed another key, and now Atari's doing his thing. And he's probably going to beat me. Yep, Atari wins the pot. Now, as far as I find this game, one of the things I'm thinking of is adding some kind of decision making to the game. There is some, but it's very minimal. Like, I like games where you can influence the outcome, even if it's just like choosing a bet, right? That game just there, High Roller, you didn't make any choices. If you can add a betting, like a choice of how much you can bet, that alone can make you have to think about your present situation in the game and how much you're willing to risk, etc. So that can add a lot, just adding a betting mechanic. Anyway, I'm very low on money apparently, like at $10, and Atari has $190. I thought about maybe one of my features that I could add is for the horse racing. That you could buy something like those lottery tickets ahead of time. I'll call it the horse booster. So it's basically steroids for your horse, and then they run faster. I mean, we won't call it steroids because this is a family channel. So it is the horse feed, special horse feed. Now here's one. I'm going to show you one thing I'm going to have to do a lot in this game. If I did, for example, change the horse racing, and I wanted to test my change, how long would it take if I just had to play the game normally and wait until I randomly found the, randomly rolled, so to speak, the horse racing. You could be there for 20 minutes just to test some change you made. So I'm going to show you how I can do a little hack to choose the outcome. Love a neighbor. After this finishes, I'll show the little hack. Give Atari $60. Oh man, I'm in the negatives now. When you go into the negatives, you have to take out an IOU. When it gets to my turn again, it'll make me take the IOU. I have -50. He has 350. Speaking of hacking, let's do a simple thing first. That this made me, like, you know, cackle with glee as a child when I figured out stuff like this. And that is, I'm going to edit my money. So watch this. This is kind of why I thought it was critical to identify the break key. Which key on my modern Macintosh computer is mapped to the Atari break key. So that's backtick. So I've paused the program, but I can actually resume it. I stopped at line 170, but let's check it out. I have my gambler notes here. The money is this one. So M. All I have to do is set M. And I have to give it the index of the player number. So yeah, according to my notes, 0 is unused. So I will give it a number between 1 and 5, but we're only playing with 2 players, me and the Atari. I'm pretty sure Atari is represented by 2, and I am represented by 1. Well, we'll try it anyway. So I'm going to set my own money. M of 1 equals to, why don't I make myself have $800? And now we type CONT to resume. And Atari's going to finish his turn, and then it should go back to that screen where it shows, you know, the status of everything, and I will suddenly have a lot of money. Plus, he just gave me $60, so I should have, what did I give myself, 850? I should have 910. No, I gave myself 800, so I have 860 now. See that? Masterful hacking right there. Be impressed, Ryan. And no, I cannot do that with your bank account. It doesn't work that way. And Ryan says, good to see the writing on the screen is alive and well. Yeah, that's my thing, writing on the screen. All right, so what I want to do now is show you another kind of hack I can do. Now, let's say I did make a change to horse racing. What I can do is I added all these comments myself, these rems. That stands for remarks. And that's how you annotate your code so you can actually see what the heck anything is. Before I spent like an hour doing that, it might have even been longer. This was all just a big blob. It was unreadable. You had to really dig into it and hurt your eyes to figure out what's going on. So what I did was I remarked on every section that I could identify what it does. And I wrote if it's a subroutine or not. Subroutine is a kind of code that you call it from one place. And it's kind of like the functions in like Java or C that I was talking about earlier. But you just write return at the end of the subroutine, which says go back to where you came from, which sounds like a xenophobic phrase, but I don't mean that. So basically somewhere else it says go sub 260, and we can actually search for that in our browser here. Yeah, here we go sub 260. So that says go to here, but as soon as you encounter a return, go back to wherever that was. So that's a great way to have like a little module of code, a subroutine as they call it. And in any modern language, you use that for all your code. It is typically called a function or a method, or maybe a procedure possibly. And they would usually be more clearly defined. They would have a name. The name would be given a name like a verb, like you know, reset high scores. And then anytime you wanted to use that, you would write reset high scores. I'm talking like in Java today or any modern language, you do something like that. So it's much more like cleaner and self-descriptive than whatever I'm doing here. Anytime you have to manually refer to line numbers, that's kind of huge pain. And Ryan says, I love the blue and the white. Yeah, this is the this editor is styled as kind of like the original BASIC or Atari BASIC screen. Not even just basic. It's the graphics mode, basically. Graphics 0. Anyway, let's make our first... Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you the hack I wanted to do. So if I wanted to make it so that if I change horse racing, and I want to make horse racing happen, I'm going to force it to happen. Here's the first thing I do is identify which line number is horse racing, which is right after this remark here, 750. So what I can do is I can find where it the code that says go to, this is it right here, random game selection and go to game mappings. So essentially what these two lines do is they say, given the random number that's generated from that whole blip, 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 blip screen, which is represented by the variable gn, it will go to the appropriate section of the code by the line number. And since I have just determined by looking it up that horse racing is 750, all I have to do to force it to go to horse racing is, first thing first, make these comments null and void by writing rem. They are now remarks. They do nothing. And then I add a line, let's call it 185, that says go sub 750. So essentially now what I've done is I've made it so no matter what game is landed on, it's going to go to horse racing. So I'd have to do the whole kind of sort of release process normally. You know, remember I was saying my whole workflow is I save this file, I do that. What I can do is kind of hack it real quick by just copying and pasting this and going to my emulator. And maybe I will break from the game by hitting my break key. Paste those 3 lines. I love how slowly it pastes. Something interesting though about Atari, these Atari prompts is, and I even noticed this back in the day, if you type too fast, it just doesn't pick up the keystrokes. So I think this emulator, when it supported the paste feature, it had to make sure that the characters come through slowly, otherwise it would break. Like not all the characters would paste probably. Okay, so it added the remarks for line 180. And now for one, I don't like that it got cut off here. This isn't great. Let me hit break again. Try to, oh shoot. Okay, I'm not sure where I'm at right now, but okay, I commented out those 2 lines. I think I mangled 182 a little bit, but that's fine. I guess there was a certain limit to how much I could paste. But anyway, the important thing is I'm going to say, two important things. Those 2 lines are remarked now. And the new line that forces going to the horse racing routine is now in there. And we can verify by typing list 180, 185. Yeah, that looks like the 182 one did not go through actually. So when I pasted, that didn't complete. So we go back to the source here, and we're going to paste that again, and hopefully it works this time. So as you can see, this is a pretty sloppy process, but this is actually a lot easier than, you know, we had back in the day doing it legitimately. I had to type all these characters. No pasting of code. No quick shortcuts. No GUI, no nothing. Okay, now let's try listing them. Okay, it looks like the remark took this time. So we have the 2 remarks in the go sub. All right, now we can just jump right back into the game. Ta-da! Horse racing! I was actually surprised it did it right here. I guess because I I think maybe when I pressed the break key to quit, when it was at that prompt, that might actually trigger the user had pressed a key. So that actually worked better than I expected in a sense. Yeah, I forced horse racing by doing that little hack. I didn't even do the okay. I was gonna say my horse is actually killing it, and I didn't even my horse killed it. I didn't even add the cheat code yet. All right, so why don't we actually get into making a change? Now I'm definitely receptive to ideas from the peanut gallery, i.e. Eric, Ryan, or whoever else is watching. But considering the time constraints and, you know, my own personal sanity, we have to keep it very simple. The very first change I'm going to make actually is going to be really freaking simple. So I'm going to put back the horse racing hack for now. We're marking out the, or commenting out, as I usually say, the horse racing code. Go sub 750. But I'm going to leave that there so I can easily, you know, add a similar hack later as needed. And Ryan said, I wish I had he said I had a watch face like that for my Pebble Steel. Cool. If I switch out of the window, it seems like the pasting stops, which is a little annoying. I wish it would just keep going. All right, so what I thought I was going to do is first make a very simple change. and then work on more, maybe like a full mini game after. Well, I'm gonna aim for 3 changes in this stream. The first one is a simple thing like change a number. The second one is going to be to add a new thing, which I'm going to make the horse racing booster, the special magical feed, or the drug. If you, so the pasting sucks, as you can see. Hold on, sorry about this. The magical horse feed is going to be the second thing I'll add, and then I'm going to try adding a whole separate mini game if I can make that happen in the time constraints. You may have noticed I started my stream a little earlier than usual. I kind of, in general in life, trying to move my schedule to earlier, and so starting my streams at 8 is probably a good idea for me, and trying to end by 10, maybe cheating and going a little over to 10:30 if I'm really into something. And my wife is appreciating this effort too. So, gotta keep, make everyone happy, including myself. I also actually thought about, part of my earlier schedule, I can get more exercise going in the morning, but I think nobody cares about my exercise routine. All right. So that's kind of putting the program back to normal now. And I'm kind of debating if I generally want to do this copy and paste hack thing or do the whole workflow like I demoed before, like save this file, load it. I think generally that's probably better, just doing the whole workflow, unless it's like a one-line change. And my first change might be kind of like that. Now, I want to actually end the program because I want to start over. I don't know how I do that at the end. I think that's what did it. No, I can still continue, so I don't know. I probably have to do new. Anyway, forget about that for now. I'll figure that out later. So here's the thing I want to change. Now, this is not going to be a super fun thing right away. It's not like I'm going to make a whole new fun game or change something in a super clever way. But I always thought the lottery ticket purchasing is always a no-brainer. Because as I mentioned before, it costs 10 each for a ticket up to 3. And it almost always pays off. You almost always get at least one of those tickets giving you $50, if not 2, if not 3. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I thought, what if I made them a little more expensive? It costs 20 instead of 10. At least that way, there's something to think about. Like, well, given how much money I have, maybe I'll only buy 2 or only 1. Again, not a super fun change, but something to get the ball rolling. And Ryan says, the horse graphics are great. I do like the horse graphics, and exercise is very important. I ran 4 miles after work. Cool, good for you. Yeah, I definitely got to keep up with a more regular routine. So let's make the lottery tickets more expensive. Now, you can see right here, I just happened to kind of stumble upon the prompt to buy a lottery ticket for $10. And here's another thing that you would do in modern programming that we're not doing here, is you would define constants for things like this. That way you don't have to hunt for 2 places where this $10 price is located. You would pull it from this one constant, which is basically like a variable, except it can't change. And then it would, the printing statement here would reference that constant, and then also wherever it subtracts your money would reference that. But we're not that advanced. We're using very simple language once again. But yeah, I actually have to see where it subtracts the 10. So I could search for 10 and hopefully it's obvious. I think this is it right here. And boy, this is an ugly line of code. And as I mentioned before, these colons are stringing multiple statements together into one line. That's actually one of the bits of advice that I read about in this manual to save memory. It's kind of funny of these stupid things you gotta do. I'll see if I can find that real quick. Well, I don't want to spend too much time just digging through this. Here we go. Here's a little bit about saving memory. Each character after rem takes 1 byte of memory. Remarks are helpful. Yes, but yeah, it says you might have to actually remove remarks just to save memory, though. It's kind of crazy, the stuff that makes your code more readable could force you to run into memory constraints. Yeah, so it's saying that this stuff Here's a way you could combine these lines here into one by doing the colon thing. That makes it a million times more ugly in my opinion. But it says adding an additional basic statement by using a colon to separate each pair of statements on the same line takes only 3 bytes. And each logical line takes 6 bytes. So again, when your total memory is measured in kilobytes on the entire system, this could actually be a concern. Right? Today we measure in gigabytes. And for those who aren't familiar, it goes kilo, mega, giga. And each one is about a factor of 1,000, 1024 to be precise. But essentially, if I have a computer with 1 gigabyte, that is a million times more memory than a computer with 1 kilobyte. Or, today we might have more like 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes, whereas this machine that I'm working on has 48 kilobytes. So more or less, we're operating at a scale of a million times more RAM on today's computers, a million times more. So when I program for work, I rarely have to think about that unless I'm doing something crazy. But here, well, you never have to think about it in your source code, right? In other words, I don't have to go, oh, I got to name this variable carefully because I don't want to use too many bytes for that. That's just obsolete stuff. You don't do that today. I could name a variable like, the counter for the player's lottery tickets. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't take up any tangible amount of memory if I give it a verbose name like that. All right, so where was I? I wanted to make the lottery tickets more expensive. So yeah, would you like to buy your lottery ticket? First, we're going to change the display because that should be accurate, right? And we found a -10 here. Now all this stuff, yeah, L dollars. That's I forget about what L dollar versus L means, but oh yeah, I know what it is actually. L is the number of lottery tickets the player has. IP being the current player, essentially. I think I took note of that here. Maybe I didn't, but that's okay. Yeah, so what it's doing is when you buy it, it says L indexed by IP, the current player, equals LIP plus 1. So we're incrementing the number of lottery tickets the player has. And then it's setting the randomly generated string that represents, if you remember when I was buying the lottery tickets, it gave me like 1-3 or 2-6. So that's a randomly determined thing. I don't need to dig into the math right now, but that's what it's doing. It's generating the random number, then a dash, and then actually I don't know if that's the dash, that's a minus operator. Let's not even worry about it. It does its magic. And this is something you have to do a lot in programming, right? If you try to dig into trying to understand every little bit, you just waste tons of time. I have done that in the past, not getting my projects done because I'm trying to figure out how everything works. You have to be able to abstract away things. Some stuff you just understand what it does vaguely and don't worry about the details, and you move on. But basically, this is the key part here. I can see M, which I identified when I did my homework ahead of time well before the stream. I know that M is an array indexed by the player number. And what they're doing there is subtracting 10. So that must be the cost in dollars. So I'm going to make that 20. And that's a change. It should be done. Unless there's another place that you have to consider. I don't think there is offhand, so I'm just going to roll with it. One little funny thing I want to mention, though, by the way, is I'm talking about how you have to count every byte using an old system like this. But one of the things I figured out is, when they create these arrays for everything that is assigned to a player, like the money that they have, for every variable that's tied to a player, the number of IOUs they have, the number of lottery tickets they have, what they do is they size these arrays such that there's actually room for 6 players. And you can see that up top here when they use these dims. Sorry, I'm scrolling funky. Let's find a good example. M6, this is the money. They're saying, hey, make an array of the integers that are needed to store this money and make 6 of them. So I was wondering, wait a minute, the game only lets you choose 1 to 4 players, plus there's an Atari player. So there's only a maximum of 5. Why do they dimension it at 6? And the reason is kind of lazy programming, or maybe cleaner programming, you can say. So what they do is they declare 6 slots in this money array. And whenever they reference it, they use player number 1 through 4, potentially, and the last one is the Atari player. So if I'm playing 4 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 5 being the Atari player. But here's the thing, the first value, the first index, I should say, for every array in Atari BASIC and many other languages too, is 0. So what I found when I was digging through the sources, 0 is actually unused. So the programmer decided it would be easiest just to not have to worry about subtracting 1. If they wanted to squeeze in every byte, they would do something like this. Player number, imagine if the current variable is player number like that, they would have to do that. So then player 1 would get mapped to index 0, player 2 would get mapped to index 1, etc. But they just decide, I don't care, I'm going to waste 0, waste a few bytes for every array. And that's just an interesting thing I found. If you don't follow that, then you, sorry. But and Ryan says he's peacing out for supper time. All right, thanks for joining, Ryan. If you want to join again later, I'll be here for probably at least an hour. And yeah, so that was an interesting little tidbit about how they wasted memory just to make it so it's easier to index the array. All right, so why don't we try to run this? We've changed the cost of a lottery ticket. Now we're gonna do the end-to-end thing that I keep talking about. First thing we do is save. Then we have to go, and again, it'd be nice to automate this, but I don't have it automated. We take, this file has to replace the old gambler.list. So we simply delete the old one, remove this extra extension, and now we can go to our emulator. Let's get this window out of the way again. And we can run the enter command to reload it, like so. Hit my F7 key to speed it up as much as reasonably possible. Although it's not, it's still going to take way longer than it feels like it should to load a small block of text. Hey, you know what, the Atari 8-bit computers, they, the first one came out in like 78 perhaps. So you got to respect how old these things are. Okay, so now the lottery ticket should cost 20, and we're going to start the game fresh. I did forget to type new to wipe the memory content, so I'm going to do that just to be sure I don't have any weird lines of code hanging around in memory somehow. So we wiped out the old program because I forgot to do it before, and now we are reloading the freshly modified source code that makes the lottery tickets cost $20. F7 to speed it up. I really wish I could somehow figure out how to make this step better. But alas. Okay, let's run it. One player, mark W, don't need instructions. And look at that. They cost 20 now. Wasn't that fantastic? I'm a lead hacker, as you can see. So let's see if it actually takes. It should subtract 20 now. So I should have $80 after purchasing. And it worked. Hooray. I feel accomplished in life. So now, maybe, like I said earlier, my goal was to make it so that buying lottery tickets is not always a no-brainer. There could probably be other ways you could handle that. You could make the odds of winning a little less or the payout a little less. Or you could even make the price of a ticket scale up so later in the game it costs more because you presumably have more money then. Whatever. All right, so now let's move on to the next mod I wanted to make. And again, I am receptive to ideas from the chat. It looks like we only have 2 concurrent viewers anymore. We had about 5 earlier. So clearly this is very exciting to everybody. That's fine though. Ryan had to go and everything. Yeah, so let's break out of this. Now, here's my next plan, is to make the horse racing make it so you can buy a special horse feed to make your horse run faster. So we have to figure out a couple things. Now, I thought I would make it work like the lottery ticket as far as purchasing. So like this prompt here, after you buy lottery tickets, it'll give you a prompt. Would you like to buy magic horse feed or whatever I want to call it for we have to pick a price. I don't know what I'm going to charge for it yet. But let's look at the source and see where we can do that. So we looked at the lottery ticket purchasing section, and that's probably a good starting point to make that prompt. Then we actually have to make it do something, which would be in the horse racing mini game section of the code, probably. So yeah, we have to do a little bit of deciphering. So what it's doing is the get command here is receiving input, and it says if the character. So yeah, this, what this does. Number 2 refers to the key. I guess the input from the keyboard, and that's put into the variable B. And then it checks if the character of B. Hello, Mr. Cubing Mike. Welcome. Just having fun playing with Atari BASIC here. I'm modifying an old game from Soft Side in the early 80s called Gambler. I'm tweaking it for fun and profit. No, not much profit involved here. Anyway, this logic saying if the inputted character is N, then no, you didn't want to buy the lottery ticket. It skips to down here. Then it says if it's not Y. So if it's not Y or N, it will go back to the prompt. It wants you to be explicit. And then so after that, this is the part that actually does the buying of the lottery ticket. This combined bunch of lines is kind of hard to decipher. And again, we modified that earlier by changing the 10 to 20. We modified the cost. And then it does this. This is something you wouldn't do in modern programming either, but this was common in these old 8-bit computers. If you wanted to wait a bit, just to have everything pause execution for a bit, it was common to do a for loop that had nothing in the middle. It's not a loop that's doing anything. It's just iterating, in this case, 400 times. And that, if you know the exact system you're running this thing on, the exact CPU, it's going to be a consistent amount of time waited. And I think I might have documented that when I was fooling around, but maybe not. Let me take a quick look. It looks like I did not, but essentially that's probably something like, roughly speaking, for every 100 iterations, it's a second maybe. Now, if you remember, when you buy a lottery ticket, it pauses. It says you got ticket 1-3. Pauses a couple seconds, resets the screen essentially. So that's what's doing the pause right here. If you wanted to torture people, you could add a 0 here. You have to wait like whatever it is, 30 seconds or so. Okay, so after that, goes back to 80, which is, yeah, this is the main kind of status screen, right? All this stuff. And the logic is if your lottery ticket equals 3 for the current player, IP indicates the current player. If the lottery ticket is 3, which is the maximum, it'll go down past the lottery ticket purchase part, past the purchase part. So essentially, what I want to do is probably stick in the horse racing feed, a horse feed purchase right after 160 here. That's after the lottery tickets are done. Yeah, so I'm thinking though, if I might want to have this hit any key to continue prompt after all the purchases are done, including the horse feed that I'm making. So maybe I'll say, maybe I'll move this to, yeah, this is when you run into problems with these line numbers. Let's make this 168. This can be 166. And we will make 160 to be horse racing, horse feed stuff. So we'll make the remark for that. Horse feed purchase logic. 160 is where that starts. So now, anytime you're done with the lottery ticket stuff where it says go to 160, it's going to go to the horse feed stuff, if that applies. So first we need to put an if there. Now, just like the lottery tickets, we don't want people to be able to buy infinite horse feed. Maybe we do, I don't know. But I'm going to start with keeping it simple, stupid, and not worrying about multiple horse feeds or whatever. We're going to say, well, first of all, we have to declare a variable to put the horse feed, just like L represents the number of lottery tickets. We need to go to the top and use a dim command to decide on a variable for what should it be? Do we have an H? If we don't have an H, we should use that. We do have an H dollar. That might actually be the horse graphics. But that's okay because H dollar means a string. We can use H without the dollar for the integer variable that represents the number of horse feeds. We can make it HF. Why not? We'll get crazy and use an extra byte here. HF 6, keeping consistent with the way they allocate arrays for the up to 5 players, and they don't care about being a little bit wasteful. So HF is going to be our horse feed. Now we want to go back. If I probably have to initialize it to 0. Do I have to do that? Let's see what, yeah. See here, they're initializing. Now, I don't know exactly how this works in this particular language, but generally in programming languages, when you initialize a variable, it either has some default value that's meaningful, like 0, 0 is a common one, or it's total garbage. It could be a random bit of memory. You never know what it is. So usually it's considered good practice to initialize these things. And what I can see is they are looping from I equals 1 to 6 and setting all the lottery tickets to 0. So I will just squeeze in the same kind of thing here. So horse feed is 0 as well for every player at the start. Now let's go down here and we're going to say if horse feed for the current player equals 1, then we skip over that and go to 168. But I'm realizing I have very few lines of code to work with. So what I might do is make a subroutine elsewhere in the code. So let me take this back. I'm going to cut. So it's in my clipboard. I'm going to say go to, and I'm just going to stick this towards the end perhaps. We can literally put it at the very end, or that probably makes the most sense. I don't have to worry about, do I have enough line numbers to work with? So we're going to put it at the very end and call it 1500. Because you can see these line numbers are like 1482 and whatnot. Let's make it 1500. Paste that, and I'll finish that thought in a minute. Go back to the Go sub that I left hanging. Now, where the heck was that? I should search for horse feed, but I just found it. Go sub 1500. All right, that was a way we could deal with the tight constraints of line numbers, right? We could just say go to this other section of the code, and then when that section executes a return statement, it'll resume on the next line here. All right, so down to 1500. If the horse feed for the current player is 1, then I think we just want return, right? It'll go back to where we were. We're done. We don't have anything to do here. Otherwise, we're going to prompt the player to purchase horse feed, just like with the lottery ticket. This is probably not the best remark, because I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. Well, I'm wondering if I should put it... It's probably more consistent if I put it down here and note that it's a subroutine. It's consistent with the way I've been writing these comments. Shoot. Okay, but what I could do up here if I want is write a comment that says what it's going to. Like I could do something like I'll just squeeze it on this line. I like these big like remarks with the spaces and the stars when I'm like saying this is what this large section does. But here I just want to put a little helpful hint that we're saying, hey, this goes to this calls the horse feed routine, something like that. I think I'm doing this right. I'm pretty sure you can string a rem after another statement with a colon. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. It's quite possible, you know, since I'm not exactly a master at this language, that I'm making bugs and I'll have to spend time debugging. We're already an hour and 5 minutes into the stream, by the way, or about an hour. So I would, yeah, I gotta hustle a little bit. But yeah, let's do the horse feed logic, which, yeah, sorry, I should more or less copy this and tweak it as needed. Let's do that. Okay, first of all, I got to fix all these line numbers. We'll do one at a time. Would you like to buy? Why do they put a big like tab there? I don't get it. Buy horse feed. Should we make that $20? I guess it depends how much you win in the horse racing. Let's leave it at 20 for now and worry about details later. So now, so we're gonna have another thing you can buy, and this will make it so you have to think a little bit. Like, well, I can buy these 3 lottery tickets for 20 each, and also I can buy this horse feed. Do I want to spend so much money, or do I want to perhaps save my money for now? Because anytime you go below 0, you have to get an IOU, which you pay back with interest. So it hurts. It hurts to spend all your money. Right, let's do this. Horse feed for $20. Oh, you know what this is? Okay, I was pausing for a minute here. What is this IP equals N business? So IP is the index of the current player. Oh, that must be what it stands for, index player. And N is the number of players. So that means it's the Atari. IP equals N is the way to say, is this the Atari player, basically. So the Atari player always buys the lottery tickets. And I don't want to get into complex decision making for the Atari, so I'll make him always buy a horse feed too. And he has to go to, well, we gotta fill in these line numbers still. He's gonna go to 154, 30, 40, 50. We're gonna call this 1550. Okay, Atari always buys it. Then we're gonna get the keyboard press. If they press N, we're gonna go to I think we just want to return. We're gonna go back to that prompt. We type return to go back to where we called this subroutine earlier. And we need to fix this line number. Next line, we're gonna make this 1540. If the character is a yes, then 1550, which is this line here, where it actually does the purchase. Now, this is going to be a very different line, because this is taking care of all that lottery logic stuff. Actually, this goes up 260. What did that do? That has to go probably. That was the ticket generation logic. If you look at that, this is where it generates the string. Like, it starts with a dash and a blank, blank, dash, blank, and then they're replacing a randomly generated number that they convert to a string. So in other words, it says, oh, let's get a number between 1 and 6, and then we'll stick it in the front. Another number between 1 and 6, stick it in the end. Then it has a number like 1-5, a pair of numbers that's in string form. Anyway, we don't need to dig into that, though. But we're going to get rid of that goes up because we don't want it. We don't want to generate lottery tickets. We want horse feed. I don't know what this character is. This is saying print. Question mark means print. And CHR dollars means the character indicated by the number 253. But fortunately, I have my ATASCII chart up here. So I can look at what 253 is. And it is something. I don't know what this is. Most of them are clear, but this one is special. It shows a special binary symbol here on Wikipedia. I'm not sure what that is. I guess we can gloss over that for now. But I'm kind of curious, unfortunately. My curiosity will lead us into a rabbit hole that takes 20 minutes. But I'm going to... Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Right here. This is a buzzer. It's a special character that's actually a beep sound or something like that. Yeah, this is it. 253. Decimal 253. Oftentimes we use the hexadecimal codes in programming, but in this case, the code uses decimal, our old-fashioned decimal numbers that you and I use in real life all the time. Right then, so we don't want to increment the lottery ticket number. We want to increment the horse feed number. Okay, and we don't have to worry about this special string for lottery tickets either, because that's not a thing. But we do need to decrement the money of the player. Plus 20. And by the way, you don't have to worry about does the user have enough money, because the way this game works is you can go into negative. Nothing stops you. It's just that you have to get an IOU at that point, which again, you have to pay back with interest as soon as you have enough money to do so. That's kind of a neat way they handle that. It actually makes the code a little bit neater. You don't have to have all these special cases for like, well, does the user have enough money to buy the thing or to place this bet? Anyway, so now it's going to do a little pause. I guess I'll keep that intact, and then I think we can do a return right here. So we don't have to loop through buying multiple horse feeds because we're only allowing one. If we want to change that later, we can. So why don't we test if this works, even though it's not going to do anything yet? Like the prompt will work, the variable will be incremented, but this doesn't actually change the gameplay at all yet. We'll do that as a next step. So we're going to save as a list file once again, and take this. Once again, our true file that the emulator reads is gambler.list. This is our new file that we downloaded from the editor. We do that, take that out of the way, switch back to the emulator. Probably want to break out of the game and do new, clear the clear memory. Here we go. We're loading it up. Hit F7 to speed it up, even though it's still crappily slow. And then we can see if our new prompt works. Now, I don't know. When I program at work, the first time I do anything, it's broken. Sometimes the second and third times as well. So there's a very good chance it's still messed up. But let's see what happens. I'm hoping this is a simple enough thing that I didn't fundamentally screw it up. All right, so first the lottery tickets. Yes. Yes. Oh, I still have the super speed on, so let's turn that off. F7. All right. There we go. I should format that a little better because it wraps a little bit weird. But that's okay. Would you like to buy horse feed for $20? Yeah. Did it work though? I noticed it didn't print the character Y. Okay, you know what? I should probably print something like you bought the horse feed. That's kind of making it look a little weird because it doesn't say that. But I think I have it. But here's the fun thing. We can actually check. We can break out and print. I think this is how we do it. Yeah, look at that. We have one horse feed. We could just break out and print any variable we want pretty much. Okay, so that was fun. But yeah, I do need to improve that user interface a little bit probably. Let's do a couple of quick things. We will make the prompt 2 lines instead of 1. Got to realize you have a very limited number of characters. And it could also just try to compress the message, like buy horse feed for 20, but then it would be kind of an inconsistent way that, you know, in English that it is asking for me to do something. So that's kind of why it's good to, you know, it's good to try to be consistent when you can. But let's just do it like this. Simple thing. Keep it simple, stupid. There's probably a better way I can do it. Like, there's probably a special character, meaning I could send a new line. Well, let's just do this. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, didn't it when you buy the lottery ticket, doesn't it print the character Y? So I think I'm missing something regarding that. I don't know. I guess I don't really need to fuss over it. That's fine. So let's try again. We're going to repeat the whole process here of saving the file and renaming. But yeah, if I were seriously doing this, I would definitely automate this step as much as possible. I could probably have a script set up to automatically when a new file is generated in this folder, it would do the renaming and deletion and whatnot. So there's always going to be some degree of pain to it, though. Okay, we do this. Enter h1 gambler.list as per usual. Hit F7 to make it go a little bit faster. All right, F7 to turn that off. Let's see if the prompt looks a little bit better. My lottery tickets. I'm gonna hit no and make sure that works right. Okay. What I should have done is actually done a not sure the best way to do it, but made it go down to the next line. Like just another print or something. I'm not sure the best way to do it. That's all right. That's something we can work out. Anyway, buy the horse feed, yes. And once again, I should make it actually say you got the horse feed. There's something a little wonky with my flow here. It waits for a long time. It seemed like longer than the lottery ticket waiting. I don't know why. Ah. Okay, that was a bad time to break out because the tone is still playing. Okay, cleared memory. All right, so let's how can I improve that a little bit? Let's print a new line for one thing, and also make it say a response like you bought some horse feed. So how do we do this? You know what I think it is? I think when you have semicolon means, yeah. I think this is how it works. If you don't put a semicolon, it'll do like a new line to go to the next line. But if you add a semicolon after the print, it will keep the cursor right after what you just printed, if that makes sense. So I could probably just stick a print here or something. And by the way, question mark is short for print. And they seem to be using that elsewhere, like right up here. So I'm going to try to be consistent with the existing source code and just use a question mark. All right, I think that should do it. This is print and going to the new line. Print this, and then horse feed for $20. Okay. And we want the response to say something. Let's see. So we can put that right here. Well, how does it phrase it for lottery tickets? That's probably something to check. It says, what does it say? That goes to 80. No, that's not where it goes. It's in the subroutine 260 for generating the lottery ticket. They must say it there. Yeah, you receive ticket number. Okay. So we're gonna use a phrase like that. Hang on a sec. Right. And they did use print in one place and a question mark elsewhere. You receive some lovely looking horse feed or something. Keep your, well, I don't want to put too many characters. It's going to look ugly again. I don't care. Let's go with it. To keep your, to power your racing horse. Again, it's probably going to be wrapped a little awkwardly, but I don't feel like worrying about that. Okay, so why don't we try to make it do something actually too, and then we'll test it all. If you go to the horse race section, now it's amazing because you had all those little characters, like the little horsey graphics moving along randomly, and you know there's a sound effect and there's something random going on where each one takes a little step forward at a time. All that is just this little block of code. Pretty impressive somehow. At least I'm impressed by that. Maybe I'm easily impressed. But it also has a remark here. What it's doing is for the horse graphics, this is actually it. This is like the first line of it. And then this says to go down, move the, oh, I didn't just do something. This says to move the cursor down, move the cursor left a few times, then draw the second row of the character graphics for the horse. And Eric said next you should reverse the horse graphics so they run backwards. You know, I'm actually going to take a momentary break to use the facilities, but I'll be back in just 2 minutes. So see you then. Let me just Okay, I'm back from my 2-minute break. I could actually reverse the horses. Should I do something? I don't know about reversing the horses, but should I do something to indicate that they have the horse feed powering them? Like I don't know what I would do. It's not color. You know, I'm gonna make it work first, and then we'll do something special. So here's the deal. The way this works, and I looked at this code before, so I'm not totally clueless about it. But and actually, I'm kind of feeling clueless at the moment. I got to figure out the part I'm looking for. Eric said give them speedy lines behind them. That might work. That's a good idea. So it says, yeah, first it's drawing the screen. So this is all kind of the initializing stuff. And then it says everyone has bet $20. The winner will receive $100. Now you have to, if I wanted to make this game seriously balanced or this feature seriously balanced, I would consider the price of the feed versus, the possibility of a reward of $100. That's fine. $20 seems like a good enough cost, good enough price for it off the bat. And notice it says go sub 1470 here. That's because it's gonna go to that. I think that's the prompt, generic prompt. Yeah, touch any key prompt. It goes down here, and then it comes right back. All right, so then play some sounds. I'm not gonna worry about sounds. if I did know a cool sound for the, I'm not gonna, it would take me a long time to experiment with sounds on the fly. But if I knew how to make a sound that makes it sound like it's moving forward in like a super way, it could make like a some kind of a zooming sound or a heroic little chime like I don't know. But maybe I'll save that for another day if I experiment with these sound options. Every time you run one of these sound commands, it's I think this one here is there's 4 parameters too. I think this one here is the pitch. One of them is the duration. The first one might be the channel, because I think you have like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sound channels. Atari maybe. Anyway, I don't know why it says $50 here. MJ, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. That might be a weird hack or something. You know what? I was accidentally looking at the lottery just now. Okay. Sorry, I got sidetracked in the wrong way. That was winning lottery tickets. Derp. Yeah, here we go. It's low. It's rolling a die, so to speak. And if you look at the numbers, it's actually just focus on these 2 parts. This is random number gibberish, basically. And I actually remember learning this magical phrase when I was a kid, not understanding it. But what I knew was that this was the maximum number that was generated, and this was the minimum. So essentially, this is like rolling a 6-sided die. A number between 1 and 6 is rolled. And what that's doing is there's 6 horses in the race, 1 for each player, and then the rest are padded for like kind of NPCs, including an extra one if you're only playing with if you're playing with 4 players and 1 computer, there's still 1 extra NPC in addition to the Atari horse racer, if that makes sense. So then it increments D, which is the current distance of the horse. K is the index of which one was randomly generated. That's all it's saying. So one way I could do this is make it so that if you have horse feed, it's more likely to select you. Now, how do I do that without getting into complex math with like weighting different numbers and stuff like that? I mean, I want to do a very simple way. And here's the idea I have in mind. It generates K to indicate which horse moves forward. My logic, and I'm not really digging into probabilities or if this is blatantly unfair or not. But the logic is going to be right after it generates K. It's going to say, is K a sorry, let me think for a moment. I'm trying to think of how to make this simple and work, basically. Yeah, here's what we're gonna. If K does not indicate a player who has horse feed, then roll a die again. That's it, and then keep the second one no matter what it is. So it'll work even in the case when nobody has horse feed. It'll do an extra die roll under the hood, but it doesn't matter. If there are multiple people with horse feed. It gives them the same edge, right? So that's it's essentially doing a re-roll for anyone who has no horse feed. So I'm gonna do that. That's a and there's probably other way they can do it too, but I'm just gonna go with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick in if K. How do I think about this? If horse feed of K equals 0, then re-roll. I don't even write ifs. I don't even know. Here's an example down here. Yeah. Do you have else? I think you must have else. Where the heck was I in the code though? Then we're gonna do it again. I think that's all we need. Do we even need the else? I don't think we need an else. I should do it. And this is another thing that's not great in modern programming is kind of, if you have some magic formula like this, you'd probably put it in a function. And I would call the function like get random horse to move or something like that. In this case, I'm just going to copy and paste the magic formula. And I think this should do it. So that's going to give any horse with horse feed an edge. It's hard to say how much of an edge offhand. We can try to see it in action though. And one thing we also have to remember to do is reset all of the horse feeds. Or there's two ways we could do that, because we could subtract 1 from their supply, or just set it flat to 0. Right now, it doesn't matter because we only have either 0 or 1 per player, right? But if we were to change it later so that you could buy 2 or 3 or however many, then decrementing it, subtracting 1 might make sense. For now, who cares? But let's see, where do we do this? Essentially, right when somebody wins, which is like here, we can do that. We could stick it anywhere really. We could stick it at right here. How about I'm actually going to make it a separate line because I need to make a for loop to do this for every player. So for, hopefully it's good to use I here. I think it should be to n. This means apply this for all players. Horse feed of n equals 0. There we go. That's all we need. And we need an next I. All right. Chances are I've written at least 1 or 2 bugs, but we'll see what happens. Now, actually, before we save, remember I figured out earlier how to force the randomly generated game to be a horse race. We're going to do that again. Random game selection, and we're going to do that by remarking these 2 lines once again, and unremarking this one. This is saying do this, do the routine at 750, which is the horse race, as you can see down here. So let's do the whole release process again. We're going to push this to GitHub, and our GitHub hooks are going to run. Jenkins is going to do his work. I'm just kidding. I'm making a joke about how we often program in the cloud in real life these days. Okay, we got our gambler list file. Rename that. Get that out of the way. Switchy to the emulator. We hit new. All right. I'm sure something at least is going to be wonky, a little bit wonky, but let's see what happens. F7 to speed it up. It would be fun if there's at least something to indicate that the horse feed was a factor, even if it's just text. It could be the speedy lines that Eric suggests. That would be kind of fun. I have to, I might have to play with it to make it look decent though. Let's try it. So 1. Now again, I force it to always do the horse racing. I'm going to say no to lottery ticket. Would you like to buy a horse feed for 20? I should probably stick maybe another blank line in here, but not a big deal. Yes. Receive horse feed to power your racing horse. And I should put like a line break here to make it look better. Oh, I got my high speed still going. Sorry about that. Okay, now no matter what it lands on, it's going to go to horse race. It might actually legitimately land there. No. Bad money. Hacker. All right, so right now I'm the only one who has it. The Atari guy doesn't. if I overpowered the horse feed, it should be obvious now. If I didn't, it won't be obvious. Let's just see what it does. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Okay. Yeah, that was not right. Okay, well, I messed it up. but how did I mess it up? Let's see if we can figure that out. Debugging time. This is what you spend most of your time doing as a programmer. Debugging why things didn't work. Shall I leave those lovely chimes going? That was some horse feed. You didn't even have to run. Just, I win. Yeah, what did happen there, though? Well, this is the wrong place to look. We don't look here. Okay, so what I wrote was simply for the randomly generated thing to increment, to choose whose position advances by 1. Do it again if you select someone without horse feed. Alright, I mean, maybe I don't have the structure of an if correct. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, it's pretty simple, though. I don't know. Let me check in the manual how an if works. This is very basic stuff, probably. Ifs are kind of a fundamental basic thing to any programming language, but let's see. Can we search this? We can. Search it for then. Oh, unfortunately, then is a very common word in the English language as well as if. If then, maybe. Here we go. Conditional branch, yeah. Yeah, see, a lot of times what they do is just say then and then a line number. That's where it goes to. But it looks like you can put a statement there too in the then. In the format if, like, then line number must be a constant, yeah. However, if the A expression is false, the rest of the statement is ignored. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's not clear to me. One way I could do it is try using the go to a line number style and see what that does. It might magically fix it. I'm gonna take another look to see if it's an obvious bug. It could be you can't assign something like this in the Zen. I don't know. Is there an example of them doing that? This type of branch it can be arithmetic or logical, sure. I don't know, it seems like it should take any statement. So Eric said, is the horse feed affecting the speed or the wind condition variable? What it's affecting is, I guess I could make it so that you increment 2. The way I wrote it was like, imagine you were playing a board game, right? You have players 1 to 6. You roll 1 die to see who takes 1 step forward. My logic was, if it's someone without horse feed, you roll again, just to kind of weight the odds towards those who do have horse feed. But I kind of like what you're saying better is, I mean, you weren't saying this per se, but you mentioned like a speed variable. So what if I, instead of doing it this way, although I could probably make this work, I kind of like the idea of why don't we just say they take 2 steps forward in the case of having horse feed, which would be this. The distance of k is incremented. We'll make it +2 instead. So let's change it to work that way. I think that would be pretty cool. So let's wipe out this if and say, there's a couple of ways we can do it. I'm going to do it just kind of the really kind of straightforward way. If horse feed k equals 1, then if they have horse feed, they're going to increment it by 2. Else, wait, is there an else in there? Do we even have else? We don't have else. Okay, I'm kind of laughing because it's such a given in any programming language that they would have an else, but we don't have else. Okay. I have to think differently than I'm used to. Well, what I could do is I could say I can make another variable that's like your horse speed, kind of like what you were saying, Eric, and it'll default to, let's say, 1. Actually, I got another way we can do this. First thing it does, increment it by 1. Then if has horse feed, then do it again. That's all. So that's how we're going to do it. They go 1. They go 1 by default, and then if has horse feed, they go an extra step. So unless there's still something wrong with the way I'm using if, that should do it. Let's give it a try. Save this again. Eric says your stream should always have random beeps and boops in the background. It might be fun to look at the code that writes these random beeps and boops. Because it's not like an abrasive sound, right? There was some thought into which exact notes it's playing. It might be in key even, I don't know. Alright, so let's reload. I'm going to break out of this, hit new to wipe the program. Once again, we will refresh it. Oh, I lost my command. Where'd it go? I'm going to have to rewrite it. Okay, here we go. H1 again. We're at 9:41 in our stream. Oh, yeah, time's going fast. After I get this working, it might be basically the end of the stream, or I can do another small thing. I was kind of hoping to, you know, we'll play it by ear. But I was kind of hoping to add like a whole other game too. Like I had a couple ideas for a dice game I could add maybe. I have an idea that maybe there could be a game where it's like a high roller game, so pretty simple, but the way it works is you go in rounds. Every player says, do you want to buy a die, yes or no? And they spend, I don't know, whatever it is, $10 per die. So maybe players 1 through 3 go, they each buy a die. Then it goes back to player 1. Do you want to buy another die? They could buy another die, and that would mean they roll 2 dice. And you keep going until everybody declines to buy another die, or if some limit is reached, like maybe 5 dice or 4 or something. And then it's whoever rolls the highest, given the number of dice they bought, wins the pot. Anyway, let's see if the horse racing works this time. No, and I'll buy my horse feed. My horse steroids. Yeah, it's pausing a little long there. That's something to work on, but whatever. Okay, now again, no matter what I roll here, it's going to go to the horse racing. It's a little hack I added. So it won't give me a random fortune. It'll instead go to the horse races. And let's see if it works this time. All right. I don't know why that little change doesn't like sort of totally breaks it, but I'm gonna try doing is undoing that. Hey, Eric, Arturo is here. So what's the syntax for lambdas in this language? Oh, no, we don't have lambdas. Sorry, Arturo. No, but this is Atari BASIC. We don't even have functions per se. I mean, we do, but they're built in. Right, let me find the bad code. I actually want to run that part unchanged because, you know, I was fiddling around with the other stuff with the prompts. I don't see how I could have messed up the horse racing when I did that, but I kind of just want to do a sanity check to make sure. But I think I'm somehow not understanding how the if works, or maybe somehow incrementing D by 2 breaks the subsequent logic that I haven't really looked at. I don't see why it would, but let's try just removing this statement entirely to handle the horse feed case. So by the way, Arturo, what I'm doing now is I'm kind of changing the horse racing mini game. so that you can buy ahead of time some special magic horse feed, or maybe it's a drug that makes your horse run faster in the horse race. Just to fool around with making a change. We made a very basic change earlier to make the cost of a lottery ticket more expensive, and I'm kind of running out of streaming time, and it's like I haven't even accomplished anything besides that technically. But I could probably go on to 10:30. It's 9:45 here in New York, by the way. Drugging horses, exactly, Arturo. You nailed it. So now we're going to reload the game as always. And just, yeah, again, this is just kind of a sanity check to make sure the horse racing works normally. It's possible somehow I messed it up in the process of my hacking around. Maybe with that Go sub I added that makes it always go to horse racing, somehow I messed up a variable. Maybe I'm I'm skipping something that sets maybe I'm skipping a line that initializes a variable and that's totally screwing it up. I don't think that's the case, but it'd be good to just have as a base scenario, let's make sure we have the basic horse racing working before we fiddle with it. Here we go. And again, I have a hack set up so that no matter what I land on here, it's going to go to horse racing. So it says sweepstakes, but we're going to horse racing. Here we go. Yeah, it works. So this is the base case. It works. But as soon as I add that if, it automatically picks a winner and skips all the animations and everything. I don't see what I'm doing wrong, but time to debug. All right, so let's go back to the horse race section of the code. And yeah, this is it. So all I was doing was, it seems very simple to me, but I feel like I'm misunderstanding an if or something else. So here's the code that, for Arturo's benefit, this is generating a random number between 1 and 6. And there's always 6 horses. So that's the index of the horse whose distance on the track it will increment. So D is the distance and K is that index that we generated. And all I did was say if the horse feed status of this particular horse is 1, meaning that there is horse feed, then we're going to do that increment again. But something is wrong there. It could be I'm accessing the variable wrong. I don't see how that would be the case, but if you look elsewhere, we can see elsewhere where they're working with an array. Here's what they're doing. I mean, it looks straightforward. If L is lottery ticket, but you do see that they're always using, or mostly using, the construct of an if statement where you go to a line number if the condition is true. I'm not here though. They're doing a print here. I wonder if I should just try that. I don't know. I don't want to go to a line number though. I'd rather, maybe if it was a Go sub, I could just do a return. But here's another case where they're using like if with the go-to construct. Another case here, they have a big kind of messy condition, but it says you go to 610 basically. Here's something where they're setting a string, right? If $B equals K, $D equals K, then set $B to P. And Arturo said this is the stuff of nightmares. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, kind of have to take all your modern best practices out of mind if you want to be able to handle this kind of coding. Yeah, and what Arturo was talking about, go-to alone is considered a bad thing that you don't want to do in programming these days. Some languages don't even support it anymore. It's that bad. Pretty much every modern language, loosely speaking. This big blob of code here, by the way, I'm trying to separate them by logical purpose so it's more readable, but this one is the most complex mini game in the game, which is a sweepstakes. So all of this is a sweepstakes. But getting back to the point, we need to make this if work, and I don't know why it's not working. And this is it. It might be worth reading the rest of this code and trying to follow the logic to see maybe there's something logically that doesn't work if you increment the distance by 2. Is D even the distance? I think I documented here. No, D dollar is the dice graphics, not D. I didn't document it. This is just part of my homework where I was trying to solve some problems ahead of time, basically. But yeah, D is the distance of the horse. Position. So what this means here is position means is where we're going to move the cursor to. So it's moving the cursor to. Yeah. So right. So it sets the distance for the winner of that round. So basically, it's looping, deciding one horse to move forward at a time. That's kind of the winner of the round. And this says it's going to move it up distance horizontally. And this math here is for the vertical orientation, right? There's 6 horses. And the vertical location is always the K, which is the index of the horse, times 3 plus 1. We don't have to worry about that math or why it makes sense, really. It prints the horse graphics there. Yeah, okay. If the distance of this particular horse who just won the round is less than 33, I guess 33 is the magic number to win probably, then 770, it'll go back and it'll repeat in that loop. Okay. So these 2 lines are basically the main action, just these 2 lines with the colons in between and everything. That's the 2 lines are the main action of horses moving and the sounds playing as they're galloping. So essentially everything I should be concerned about is contained right in those 2 lines, and yet that breaks it. Am I somehow setting distance, the D variable, to something much greater? I don't see how it's possible. All I was doing was, let me put it back in. I'm going to put back in my code that was apparently broken. So what I was doing is after the distance incremented, if the horse feed status is 1, in other words, the horse has horse feed in him. He is powered by the drugs or the energy provided by the horse feed. And then we're supposed to increment again. That's all it does. And then somehow what that seems to be doing is making this condition false. And then that player wins automatically. It's actually weird though, because I don't even see the horse advance. So I'm thinking it's not actually what I just stated, because if this statement were executed, we would see the horse advance visually. These two statements together are doing that. Change, put the cursor at this position and draw the horse. So something is short-circuiting this logic that I just don't understand. And yet it's not like the program crashes or does something horrible. It's saying the horse won. So it's like somehow going here. And I don't understand why. So this is what programming looked like back in the day, except it was even harder than what I'm showing, because you had to type it all right in this prompt here. And this is something I showed early on in the game, but early on in the stream, but Arturo didn't see that. You would program literally at this prompt. You would say print string called A. You had to write the line number manually like this. Yeah, that's right. HF is an array. What I'm doing is I'm following the pattern that is generally followed in this game for any array, anything that's associated with a player. What they do is up at the top here, they declare it as they use dim to declare it, and they size the array as 6. So anytime you see parentheses 6, that's usually associated with a player. M is the money, so they have M of 6, IO of 6, number of IOUs. These are all things associated with each player. I added declaring HF for horse feed as 6, and I initialized it to 0 here. And then when you buy horse feed, when you are prompted to do so, it will increment it here. And for now, you can only have 1 or 0. You cannot have like 2 or 3 horse feet because the prompt won't come up if you have 1. So that kind of, I'm trying to not have to worry about any complexities for now. 0 or 1, you have it or you don't. But somehow the horse automatically wins. No, not even the horse feed horse, just some horse automatically wins. Yeah, as soon as I add this if, I'm like, what the heck am I missing here? I could try to structure this another way, but this is like pretty much the most straightforward way I can think of to do it. For all I know, there's a weird no, I looked up. I was gonna say for all I know, there's a weird limitation that you can't assign a variable in the then clause here, but I found another instance of that actually happening and it worked. Or I'm assuming it works. It's in the code that I'm modifying. Like this one here, that if the random number is less than 0.11, then it's assigning S here, so that should work. Another instance is right in that line. What do you mean exactly? So let me explain the logic here just from the top, what this line is doing. The line has multiple statements. K is a number between 1 and 6. The logic is increment that horse's distance by 1. And then if the horse is on speed, we increment it again. So he moves an extra speed. If that chosen horse, K is the index of the player, basically. So if the horse feed of that player is 1, give him an extra boost. And then it positions the cursor accordingly, draws the horse, etc., etc. This is the win condition. Check. It's kind of lose, hasn't won yet condition, actually. Less than 33. So I don't see why that would break things. Let's try running it again. I don't know. So here's my release process once again. Hit that save as list, delete this. It's unfortunate that I'm gonna spend the rest of the stream debugging this stupid thing. But hey, that's how it goes. This is how my work goes too. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna finish this project in 2 days, and then I spend one of those days debugging something unexpected. So let's wipe the memory just to be on the safe side. Reload the whole program. Hit F7 to speed it up slightly. How many times does that run for the horse to move? If it's doing it once per, I'm reading what Arturo's saying. If it's doing it once per pixel, wouldn't it be hard to get 30 and be declared the winner? Yeah, maybe you didn't see how it was behaving. It's essentially skipping everything and just declaring a random horse the winner. So let me show you again. And one thing that might be worth testing is if it does this if I don't have horse feed. I forget if I test it. I'm going to try it with and without horse feed. If I have horse feed, receive horse feed to power your racing horse. Skipping to the horse race. Now, once again, no matter what I roll here, it's going to go to the horse race because of the hack I added. See that? It doesn't even draw any motion of the horse. There's no increments. It just says one of them wins. That's it. Now, I don't understand this at all because even if I had accidentally incremented the distance like way too much, according to the code I'm seeing, it should still draw that fact. You know what I mean? So, it's possible I should just move on from this particular feature and try something else. Yeah, I just don't get. I'm gonna try what I just said though. I'm gonna try running again and not getting horse feed and seeing what happens. The Atari's gonna buy horse feed though, isn't he? Yeah, he bought his horse feed. So it's gonna do that again. Then it'll be my turn and we can try it once more without my having horse feed. And screw it. I'm just gonna restart the program. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know. And there we go. All right. Okay, I'm not gonna buy horse feed. I'll see if the behavior is the same. So in other words, that if statement I added should evaluate to false and do nothing. That's the only change I made. If it still breaks, then there's something fundamentally wonky going on. Something fundamentally wonky is going on. All right. Good to know. Good to know. What? Okay. So this statement, even when it evaluates to false, breaks the horse racing. Which makes me think somehow I'm reading or writing to memory incorrectly. It's just kind of screwing up something under the hood. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Could my indexes be wrong somehow? And it's, I don't know. Actually, I think it might be something to relate to that. I'm just realizing because so the horse racing is always 6 horses, right? But most of the variables are initialized up to the number of players. No, but I am doing 1 to 6 here as well. All right. There goes my theory. I was thinking maybe I screwed it up, like by only initializing some of these values in the array of horse feed. But that seems not to be the case. So yeah, here's where we initialize it 1 to 6. Lottery tickets are all set to 0. Horse feeds all set to 0. When you buy it down here, IP is the current player essentially. And it increments it like so. And then, you know, it decrements your money. It subtracts 20 from your money. So you can see it's a very similar construct between adding the horse feed and subtracting the money. And we clearly see that subtracting the money works. All right, I don't know. I wonder if I should move on so I'm not staring at it. I could debug this offline. Because I don't even have a theory right now, which is kind of sucky. HF if. Let me look at that line again, though. What if I just like printed something? I don't know. Then can I do a no ops? Just if HFK equals 1, then do nothing. I'm gonna make it print something. Print as horse feed. This is probably gonna be printed in a random place and it's ugly, but I'm just gonna try that. I don't know. After that, I'm kind of at a loss, so I'm gonna decide my next step. Like move on, either end the stream entirely or do some other feature or whatnot. So let's do the usual song and dance here. Load up the new source code. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Break out of this, hit new. And once again, new wipes the memory clean. Then I reload like so. F7 to give it a little extra boost to speed, although this loading is always painful. Who would have thought loading like a couple hundred lines of basic text could take like 30 seconds. What I'm doing is I'm turning off this emulator limitation that limits the speed of how much it can process. Anyway, let's see if this does anything. Do we want to buy horse feed? Let's go with no again. So no horse feed. And let's see what happens. Alright, I hit the jackpot. No, I hit a horse race crash, really. Okay, I'm expecting this to have the same bug. Yeah. Okay, bonkers, huh? I can't step through or look at the memory because we don't have such advanced features. uh, I'm gonna stare at this one more minute and then move on. But I do want to try to figure this out offline. All I can think of is I'm somehow either reading memory badly, writing to memory badly, or I don't understand how ifs work in this language. Like I'm using a construct it can't handle or something. But I actually verified earlier that my horse feed variable was pretty good, right? You can actually view memory this way. Yeah, look at that, 0. Now the horse it selected was number 4. Oops, I meant to do print. Well, I don't know if this is meaningful because after the horse race completes, it resets everything to 0. What I could do is break it before the horses run. Let's try that. I'm gonna break it and look at memory after, like before the horses go. Do I want to buy the horse feed for myself? Let's do it. All right, got the horse feed to power my racing horse. And then we're gonna have the horse race, and we will look at. I guess I could look at the memory right now, even. Let's do that, I guess. Print. Yeah, look, I have it. There's no weird garbage in memory, right? And the rest from 1 to 6 should all be 0. Okay. Nothing wrong there. But this if statement of doom, I don't really get it at all. Crazy. And we've seen in other places where they access arrays, right? Let me find one again. Like this one. If D, okay, less than 33. Is there a... I'm like 99% this is not the case, but now on a sanity check, many languages have a different operator for assignment and comparison. In other words, there's 2 different kinds of equals. Let me verify that I don't have this. So let's find an if with an equality. That's not the one. That's one we just looked at. If with an equality, where is this? Here we go. If j equals n plus 1, I mean, what the hell could I be doing wrong? I don't get it. All right. Guess I have to move on. But what is my next step? I just keep wanting to look one more time and think, what is wrong with it? I'm gonna eyeball it one more time. What's weird is it's skipping this position and drawing the horse and everything. It's like automatically go into this line. Can I somehow be telling it to go to this line? 790? Right, so Arturo asks, when do you use colon or semicolon? So colon is used to string multiple statements together on one line of code. So for all intents and purposes, they are separate statements. That's kind of silly from modern programming point of view, but the way line numbers are, they're a very cumbersome thing, and it sometimes can be difficult to stick a new line in between, like so, because you actually run out of line numbers. Plus, this saves memory, but we don't need to get into all the benefits of doing so. Let's know that colon is stringing statements together. On the other hand, semicolon is a special thing. I don't know if there are additional contexts to it, but when you issue a print statement, if you have a semicolon after the close quote, that leaves the cursor right at the point of after where it printed. If you don't have the semicolon, it'll end a new it'll basically add a new line character. You can look at it like that, basically. Now that you mentioned that, and got me talking about lines, I wonder if I just put this on a separate line, would it magically work? I don't know. I'll give it a shot. And then that's going to be the last thing I do. Then I give up. So let's move this to a new line. And this has to go to a new line. This will be 787. I don't know. 783 will be my new if. Or true to 785. Well, I wanted to insert two different lines, so I went with 83 and 87. Shouldn't really matter. So you have space for new lines in both sides. Well, I had to add two lines, right? Well, this should be fine. Let's just test it. Right, let's just go. Okay, yeah, Archer said I wrote that before you explained it was two lines. Yeah, sure, fine. Okay, so once again, we do the song and dance. Loading the program. Excuse me. New. Let's make the screen dance while we wait. We should give a little theme song to the game on the title screen or something. Actually, I feel like those kind of blips are classic to me. Probably not to anybody else who's not played the game. All right. Same deal. Do I want to get the feed or not? Doesn't matter. I'll start with not. And then I'll go with adding it if it doesn't work. I don't know why separating the lines would make a difference, but I'm kind of at a loss. So there we go. Look at that, it works now. Okay. Wow. Go figure. I would love to pick the brains of perhaps Atari age. Maybe somebody could tell me why it could possibly make a difference. Like how could it matter? Why don't we add the logic back? Let's do it. Okay, crazy. So let's add it again. You have a little boost. If you have the horse feeder, you're going to have an extra distance increment if you have the horse feed. That's all there is to it. Now that it doesn't fundamentally break, hopefully this works. Unless I fundamentally break it in a new way, which is always fun. Once again, we do the song and dance. Deleting the old file. Doing that. New. And lastly, reload. Matrix reloaded. They should have made the Matrix screens in the movie look like this. Atari BASIC, the blue. Arturo says, put the Cantina guy while we wait. Oh yeah, I should do that. I should have another camera pointing at a Vectrex if I actually had one working. All right, so let's see if it actually works this time. If it actually works, I'll be pretty thrilled. Okay, we're going to skip the lottery tickets. Oh, Eric might have a tip. He says, this is what I'm reading. Don't know if he went over. Program lines can be up to 3 physical screens of 40 characters, 120 characters total. Ah, it might be the line was getting truncated. Because this editor that I'm in probably not aware of the limit and just lets you keep typing. And then when I load the program, it would get truncated maybe. But I think you might be onto something, Eric. And after I do this test, I'm going to verify if we went up over 120 characters before, maybe. Let's buy the horse feed. Oh, got my high speed on still. All right. Now, I don't know. Again, I didn't really calculate the probabilities to... or like how heavily this would influence my potentially winning. But who cares? Let's just roll with it and see what happens. Oh, it's messing up the drawing. Yeah, because I think, okay. Yeah, I'm definitely moving faster, but I have to clean up my horse poop better. Maybe that's the sign that he's a fast horse. He's pooping as he goes. Or those could be the lines you were talking about, Eric. But it works. It works. It's ugly right now, but it works. And the idea would be that every player has the opportunity to buy the horse feed. So, you know, if you see other players buy it, well, maybe I got to buy it too, or I'm going to lose the next horse race. Things like, you know, it kind of gets you thinking a little bit, is my point of view. But yeah, it worked. So let's see if we can fix that bad drawing. What I'm going to do is hard stop in the stream at 10:30, basically. So I'm just going to focus on fine-tuning this horse racing stuff. And I don't know. If I do more, I'll have to do it another stream. But let's see. Right, so where is the line in question? Okay, so what it does is positions the cursor. Yeah, I think I get it. So if you look at the graphic here. There's 2 lines to every horse. This is the first line. And we can just paste it in a little blob here. Now these arrows you can ignore. That's simply telling the cursor to go down and then left a bunch and then draw this piece here. Right? So it looks a little off, but I guess that's... Maybe it's like, yeah, that's it. So the graphic, I think, has a space. I am doing... Right, so what I think happens is because there's a space, if you only increment it by 1, by the very nature of drawing, it's drawing the space, which clears out the old crap. But now I need to either actively say draw an extra space, or I could extend the horse graphic by another space. But that might screw up the initial start of the horse, so I'm not sure about that. But Arturo said you need to do the increment before it paints it, which is actually already what it's doing. The increment happens here. These 2 lines are incrementing basically. And then the drawing is here. This is the part that draws. But what is happening here actually? Position 1, 21. That's a fixed location, and it prints whatever $0 is. I don't know what that is. Oh, this is the winning. This is when it, from this point on is hey, somebody won. And remember, this small bit here is the main loop. So yes, what we could just do is manually draw an extra space just to be sure. That should work. Just have to get the position right. And I might need to do that for 2 lines or just 1. I don't know. It's kind of a little inelegant because the way this works is that makes it elegant is it says to just draw this one character, and it draws this at that particular location, but then using the elegance of this cursor stuff, that controls the cursor to go down and to the left a bit. So what I could do is perhaps have a similar string that represents clearing the garbage. It could be like, I'm going to go crazy and use a larger name. Clear garbage. Now I'll call it CG to clear garbage equals space and then down to the left and a space. Maybe that'll do it. That might be all we need. Oop. What I do? Okay, it's just wrapping him strangely, I guess. Yeah, as Eric said, if you put an extra space before the tail, before the back. Well, if I do that inherently in this one graphic, everything will be offset a bit, even from the starting point, and it might look wonky. That's why I'm thinking of making it an extra thing that'll be drawn. Arturo says, but that will impact both the horse with the boost and the ones with no boost. I don't know if you're talking to Eric or me, but I'm hoping that if I draw this space first, in either case, it should just work. If I'm wrong, we'll see it doesn't work, but let me just try it. Abraham Ars Gonzalez says, so I fell asleep and woke up to your stream. What you up to? I am up to programming in Atari BASIC. And what I'm doing is modifying a game that was one of my favorite Atari BASIC games as a kid called Gambler. I'm playing with, it's basically a game with a bunch of mini games, and you bet money and you win money. It's very simple and basic stuff. What I'm doing is making it so that you can buy a special magic horse feed for your horse. So when you get the horse racing mini game, your horse will go faster. So right now I'm just trying to make the go faster stuff work correctly. And I got it to work after much fiddling, but I have to make the graphics draw a little better, because right now the horses, when they go faster, are leaving a trail of horse poop, so to speak. But I should see if I'm at that limit now. Look at this. There is some string that they're drawing a lot of spaces with. Eric says, one of the more interesting streams, not that your streams aren't interesting. Great, thanks. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. Yeah, thing is, I'm trying to work with a new schedule in life in general, so I can't extend this stream too much longer. And new sleeping schedule for me. And, you know, it's something I worked out with my wife. So it's kind of unfortunate that we've got a decent amount of viewers, but I have to call it soon. Anyway, what I'm not sure of is if this is too long or what happened with that wrapping. I think the wrapping is safe. But I wanted to write a space here too, actually. But yeah, what was the max length? It was 120 characters. So let me see if I can get the length of this. Yeah, I go just beyond it. If I use my editor, which is Sublime Text, it says at the bottom I'm at column 123. They basically already packed in as much as they could on this line, so I have to figure out something else. What I can do is shift some lines down. See, look, I'm really pressed for line numbers. The problem is something is saying go sub 750 in at least two, well, at least one place. So if I shift this one down to say 745 and I make this remark say 743, I have to change the part that goes to 750 as well. So it's kind of a pain, but let's just do it. Make it 749. What? Sorry, I'm not following your logic. So I'm just going to go with the way I have it in mind. Let's make it 744 and find instances of 750 and change that to 744, basically. So we got a couple of them. Let me make sure this is what I think it is. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Why are there two, though? That's actually a little weird, isn't it? No, it's not weird, because there's multiple instances of horse racing on the chart, on that whole random generator thing. Yeah, so there's two of them. Okay. And my hack go sub here needs to be modified. Is there any others? Another one here. Ah. 744. Is there another 750? That's it. All right, so we made some rooms. Now that's, again, if you're a modern programmer, you look at what I just had to do and you're probably like sighing in dismay that that's even a thing that anyone has ever had to do. That's horrible. That's not good. Anyway, now we can not worry about this. But yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out, Eric, about the line number limit. That really helps. I can do something like this. And I know that's probably what was responsible for the mysterious issue before. Right, this should be good. I don't know if my fix is going to work, but we should have solved the line number and too long line issue at least. And we have to actually print CG, which I don't even remember what I said it was going to stand for. It was clear garbage, right? All right, so they have to print clear garbage. Yeah, right before. There's a couple ways we can do this. We could print it at d of k minus 1, or before we increment, we could print it. There's kind of pros and cons to each. I'm going to go with printing it like so. Minus 1. I think minus 1 is correct. This is the offset, vertical offset, k times 3 plus 1. We don't want to touch that. We want to print clear garbage $. Do you want a semicolon? It probably doesn't matter much because we're repositioning the cursor anyway. Semicolon would mean leave the cursor right after that point. In fact, if I wanted to really optimize the code a little bit, I might not need another position after that because the cursor might already be in the right place. But I'm not going to worry about that. Let's see if this works. It's probably not gonna, just because this is a lot of fragile math and stuff, and I'm not even 100% sure this string is correct. But it's fun. I'm enjoying this a lot. I kind of wish I could marathon this in like a 5-hour session or something, but life, being what it is, doesn't like that. So yeah, my daughter just started kindergarten, and her schedule changing, and my wife would really like it if I'm up in the morning at the same time as them. You know, I want to be a good dad and husband. That has to come first before programming an Atari BASIC at nighttime. Anyway, that means basically getting up at like 6:30. So let's see. We have to go back to our emulator, new, and reload. Okay. Yeah, it's theoretically I could probably write a script that would make this would make like a patch version, so I could leave the contents of the program that I have, and if I only change a couple lines, it would only run those couple lines, and therefore this enter command would run faster. I think that's feasible. Anyway, we're gonna force a horse race again and see if the horse with horse feed will not have that crap drawn behind him anymore. Skip the lottery ticket, buy the horse feed. Horse feed. It's funny. I was hoping I could get add like a whole other mini game to the game, but I'm stuck on this horse feed thing. That's okay. I'm having fun. Hopefully you guys are having a little bit of fun too. All right, let's see if the horse feeds. Oh, oh man. Line 744 is broken. And I don't get any like static analysis of the code. It's just you know, normally in real life you would have your compiler would tell you, hey, there's a problem with this part, and it wouldn't catch every issue, but it can catch some compile time stuff as opposed to runtime problems. But anyway, it must have to do with, jeez, I don't know. 744 is bad. One of these things is bad. I can only assume it's the thing I added. What's wrong with that? Oh, I never declared it. Yeah. I have to add it to the dim here. Let's do that. Clear garbage. Shoot, how big do I make it? I guess I didn't make it only as big as I need, which would be 4, I think. Would I have 4 characters, including the cursor movement arrow thingies? Yeah, that should do it, I think. Let me count how many characters I have here. In case it might need to, like, I don't know, it might need an extra one, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Looks right. All right, let's do this spiel again. Spiel mit mir. Ein Spiel. Vater, Mutter, Kind. Okay, we blew up the program. We don't even have a cursor anymore. Look at that. It ate my cursor. The error ate my cursor. All right, at least I don't feel bad about wrapping up this stream soon because my viewership took a nosedive down to 2. Although sometimes it doesn't count people randomly. Oh, still got a bug. Okay. This time, at least it was a clear bug. Oh, well, we got 2 guys in the chat saying go Brazil. I don't know what's happening. Are you talking about a soccer match or something? Sorry, this doesn't have anything to do with it. Eric says a lot of new people, so I don't think the view count is correct. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about the view count. Okay, I put a colon here instead of a comma for my list of dims. So at least that failed fast. Okay. And we will load it up again. It looks like I'm kind of hanging a little somehow. I'm not sure what I need to do. If I can do anything. All right, let's do a warm reset. Yeah, that worked pretty quickly. Okay, it's stuck in lowercase, and when I hit caps lock, it doesn't fix it. Fuck. I'm actually watching my keyboard light. It was instantly going off every time I hit caps lock until now it decided to finally take. Yeah, this emulator is so wonky. It just does all this weird stuff. And Andre said, thanks, bro. We are very congrats to your videos in Brazil. Oh. Do I have a lot of viewers in Brazil that I didn't know about? Well, thank you, Andre. If I knew any Portuguese, I would try to say something to you. But I don't. I know some Spanish. I know it's sort of similar, but not the same. And I don't want to make a fool out of myself. Yeah, what is going on in Brazil though? I know, didn't you guys ban Twitter in Brazil? I heard that's the last time I heard Brazil in the news lately. That Twitter is banned in Brazil. Oh, I already entered. I'm getting distracted with conversations. That's all good. It's all good. All good. I have to wait for this to finish again, though. Twitter is not a thing. That's right. It's called X, or as Arturo here calls it, Eki. Okay, X was banned. Wow, that's crazy. All right, let's see if our horse looks okay and we don't get an error. Pay F for respect. Pay respect by pressing F. Is that what we're doing? I'm gonna join you guys by pressing F. All right. So I can go to bed. Let's see if our horse race on steroids works. All right, here we go. Okay, it didn't quite work yet. You know what it did? I think it cleared. Shoot. Before there were like 2 lines to the garbage. But I thought I made it clear 2 lines, so I'm not really sure what happened. But it looks like I cleared just the first one. Yeah, I fixed the tail. But my intent was to fix 2 lines worth. So maybe I'm offset by 1 or something. Then once it finished, it also the graphic got a little screwy, so I don't know what's with that. Might need a special case. It's getting a little hairy. All right. Oi, is it oi or oi amo Brazil? Now I love Brazil, I guess. Are you gonna use me for like a soundbite for something? So, some American awkwardly trying to speak in Portuguese. USican, sorry. I know a lot of people in South America don't appreciate when the US people in the U.S. think America is synonymous with U.S. because I know there's a lot of other countries in North and South America combined. So sometimes I say U.S.ican, U.S.ican. Anyway, right. Let's see if I can find. I don't know. Maybe I should call it now. But my attempt here was to clear both lines, right? And it looks like I did clear this tail bleeding. Oh, I think I understand why. Simply because the body of the horse is more inset, I think. Like, I think. Let's draw a picture. Now, I'm not quite yeah, because there's only 5 backward arrows instead of 6. It's kind of like only going. The offset is different than I expected, basically, because what it's doing is, let's follow the logic, right? First thing it does, it draws that, and then it goes down 1. So it's basically here, I think. Then it goes left 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it draws exactly this, like so. Right? So what my hack to erase the garbage is doing is it's starting right, let's say here, and it goes down 1 to the left and draw the space like that. So what I need to do is actually, I think I just need to get rid of this left. All right, bye, Andre. Thanks for coming by. I think that's all I need to do. I'm not sure why I thought I needed the left, actually. Well, I'll try that. This might have to be my last iteration. I gotta go. But yeah, this has been fun. Even if I want to go back 6 and draw another. Did I mess up something? I don't know. I'm just gonna try what I ran. I think I'm losing my steam here. Now I'm not following. Well, let's see what it does. It's always fun to see what things do. All right, let's load it again. The random Portuguese people came by. Thank you, random Portuguese people. So new. Sorry, not Portuguese, Brazilian. I'm sorry. I would hate if a random person called me British. So, not that there's anything wrong with British, but that's just so widely inaccurate. I like to think of, like, in my mind, Spain is to many Central or South American countries like Mexico or Argentina as Portugal is to Brazil, and Britain is to the U.S. sort of. I know it's not exactly a perfect analogy, but it's kind of like they're the old world version of us. Oh no, look at that! I messed it up. Oh man. All right, so how did I screw this up? So my clear garbage that I modified somehow broke it. Oh, I know I left this stupid artwork in here. Christ. All right. And once again, we do this song and dance. All right, I gotta wrap this shit up. And we will reload. Matrix reloaded. I don't know. I have Matrix on the mind lately. I guess I just saw it last Friday. I watched the first Matrix. It happened to be on Pluto TV or something. I hadn't seen it in so long. It's quite a good movie. I just kind of got tired of it in pop culture, and it was like Matrix oversaturation, and I didn't really like the sequels. And anyway, All right, let's get some horses going. Eric says, I had an online friend in Brazil. He was studying to be a doctor. Cool. And I watched the new Twisters movie. It was pretty good. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that movie. I heard about it, but then it kind of exited my mind. I was like, okay, Twisters. I was like, all right, whatever. It might be worth seeing. All right, here we go. I'm not expecting this to work. It worked. It worked. And look how fast my car, I called him a car. My horse is going. That last step, if you notice, I think the issue is it has to do with the number of spaces is like, if you notice when he's one space away, he's one space away, he's not two away. So somehow it gets mangled when it overshoots that. So what I could do is add a special case. So in the last, if it's only one step away, he'll only move one instead of two. But I'm gonna save that for another time. But I do want to do real quick, dude, though, just for the fun of it now, is start the game with, let's say, 4 players. No, this isn't gonna work. Sorry. I was gonna say give everybody the horse feed and see who wins. But the problem is the horse racing will be. It'll go to the horse race before the other players have a chance to take their turns and buy the horse feed. But I could cheat and make everyone default to having horse feed. Let's do that. Let's do that for the fun of it. It's gonna be a little hacky line here, actually. I'll remember to delete this. I'm gonna give all 4 human players the horse feed. I'm gonna have 4 human players, and we're gonna beat the snot out of everybody else with our horse feed. Not 2, sorry. All right, let's do this. Horse feed galore. Horse feed for all. Miniature American flags for others. Next time I'll add the speed lines. Yeah, I definitely need to do more of this. This is fun. And I kind of wouldn't mind shaping this game into something like, maybe not awesome, but just full of crazy options and weird fun stuff. Yeah, I'm like giddy at the thought of having my own weird version. My own weirdo, deranged version of Gambler. And the original game entertained me and my siblings and a couple of friends just so much as we were kids. Even though it's such a, kind of basic game, it was always a lot of fun to us. Definitely my favorite game written in Atari BASIC to play. And, at the time, there was more of an illusion of it not being totally luck as well. Like, even when it had the animation for rolling the dice and you have to press a key to make it stop, it felt like I had control over it somehow. I'm sure I don't. Anyway, 4 players. Mark W. Bob. Ariaga 2. Does anybody know that reference? Eric says when you Google Gambler Atari Basic, your post on Atari Age is the first result. That's funny. All right, look at this. We all have all the human players, which is all 4 versions of me, have the horse feed off the bat. And now we're going to see how the race is going to go. Now, I might want to somehow tune it. I don't know how, given the mechanic in which I made horse races work. It would be, I'm getting the feeling it's like nearly impossible for someone without horse feed to win, and I might not want it to be that strong. That's fine. We can figure out something else. My original idea might be a good way to handle that, by the way, which was, I got stuck on that bug, and well, my original way of making it working was it rolls the die, so to speak, and if the die indicates a horse that does not have horse feed, it rolls it again, and then the second die that's what sticks no matter what. So the idea would be to weight it a little bit in the direction of horse feed rather than doing the increments of 2. Anyway, I don't know. I could try both and see what I like better, but let's see. The first 4 horses have horse feed and the bottom 2 do not. I will gamble right down. I'm going to bet $100 that unless there's a horrible bug, like something exploding, that there's no way Atari or number 6 is going to win. Let's see. Yeah, look at this. Ariaga wins. Ariaga. And yeah, Atari and number 6 came in last place. They didn't have a prayer. Alright, so really I should clean up messes I made, like that hacky line, and maybe check this into my Git source repository and stuff, but I gotta go to bed and I gotta get off the stream. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you to Mr. Eric Johnson and Arturo and Ryan earlier and Cubing Mike and who else? Our Brazilian friends earlier, JMFC and Andre Reno. And JMFC, by the way, sent a message I missed about X. Anyone using a VPN to try to cheat would be fined 50,000 per day. That is nuts. That's nuts. They banned X and like you can't. Well, anyway, that's all. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, Eric. And yeah, I'll probably do a stream on Saturday, hopefully with Mr. Rob Bob, if he doesn't have too much homework now that school started for him. Rob Bob, for anyone who doesn't know, is my son who joins me co-hosting the stream once in a while. But that's it for now, folks. As always, if you liked the stream, please subscribe and hit that like button. If you did not like the stream, hit the dislike button twice for extra emphasis. All right, that's all. Have a good night. Bye.